You're watching a More Beautiful World podcast with Susan Renee, a channel for those of you with open minds and courageous hearts who are looking for guidance on your trauma healing and personal transformation journeys. Here, I share with you the powers of intentional plant medicine use, along with other holistic therapies and spiritual guidance to guide you on your path forward. I'm so eager to share with you what I've learned in working with these sacred plant medicines on my own journey, including the knowing that what we do to heal ourselves, we do to heal the whole collective. Join me as I share my experiences, knowledge, and wisdom to guide your trauma healing so you can transform your life, and so that together we can create the more beautiful world we all know is possible. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of A More Beautiful World. And in this episode, I am going to share with you my fourth medicine retreat experience with one of the more commonly known psychedelic plant medicines, ayahuasca. This medicine journey was unique for me as it was the first time I had sat with this medicine so close in time to my previous sit with ayahuasca. This was actually just 2 months later. And today, in part one of this series, I'm going to take you through the 2 nights of ceremony and my experience being in the medicine, which was truly a beautiful ceremony experience. And of course, in my next episode, I'll take you through the integration of this medicine journey and all the blessings that unfolded in the days and months to come. So if you are ready today to learn more about a medicine ceremony with ayahuasca, or maybe you are curious about a plant medicine journey, or even if you want to know more about what a experience could look and feel like in this medicine, then this episode is for you. A quick ask as always before we dive into this episode. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please make sure you drop me a rating or a review. I always love to know what you think about this podcast and the episodes. And your support and rating of me helps me get these messages out into the world. And make sure to follow the podcast while you're there too. Of course, if you are watching me on YouTube, please remember to like this video, drop in a comment, and subscribe for more. Now, first off, as I've done in my recent Medicine Journey podcast, I am dedicating this episode to my dear brother, Parker, who left his human body just a few months ago and transitioned to the other side. Parker's mission was to raise the consciousness of humanity, and I want to continue to honor his mission by sharing the medicine I have received through these experiences in this podcast. And honestly, if it were not for Parker, my continued journey in working with plant medicines would probably not be happening. So with that, these episodes are for you, Parker. Para el bien de todos, for the good of all. And as always on my medicine shares, I have a quick disclaimer, the reminder that I am only here to share my experience with this medicine. And before I dive in too deep here today, I want to make a disclaimer that I do not assume any liability for the application of the information contained in this podcast. I am presenting the information and my experience with this medicine solely to further the quest for a fuller understanding of the human experience and how I truly believe we can use these medicines to make this a more beautiful world for us all. With that, I am not recommending you go out and use this medicine without deep thought and deep consideration, ensuring that it is in alignment with you and with where you are at on your journey. So to get started today, I recently heard a perspective that these plant medicine ceremonies are, and your experience with them, are really to be kept private. And I disagree with that perspective. And I truly feel that we are at a time in our history, as a society, as this divine feminine wisdom is moving through our planet, where this medicine needs to be shared. And I believe deep in my heart that what we do for one, we do for us all. And it's always my intention in sharing these experiences that the medicine I've received, the downloads and the messages that I've received reach you in divine timing and help to guide you on your own healing and transformation journey, just as they have done for me. So, in this series, I am not actually doing an episode on ceremony preparation because, again, for the first time ever, my integration of the medicine experience 2 months prior overlapped completely with preparation for this ceremony. I had less than 2 months in between these ayahuasca retreats, and it really was the closest in time I've ever sat with medicine. Almost felt like kind of like back to back. So, if you want to know more about what the ceremony preparation looked like for this experience, please go back and listen to episode 57 of this podcast, because that is where I shared integration of my third medicine retreat with grandmother ayahuasca. And in listening to episode 57, you will understand more of what the prep work was for this ceremony, because I was integrating my medicine experience during that time. So, a short summary, though, I will give you of the prep work. So, I had just come off of my third retreat 2 months prior to this one, and I was feeling really deep in, acknowledging my self-worth. And I had this fire that ignited inside of me to really go after what I deserve. And so I had moved out of a living situation I had been in with the roommate that I was living in, and it just wasn't the environment for me. I was settling for less than I deserved. So I got my own place, and I was really working on just stepping into going after what I deserve, stepping into my worth, stepping into my full power, and also continuing to open myself up to receive love fully. So, in coming into this ayahuasca retreat, I had just started a romantic relationship, which officially began 2 weeks before this ceremony. And I knew the reason that I had been called in the last ceremony to go and sit again so close was because of this relationship with my sweet Davidcito, also known as David. So, again, go back, listen to episode 57, 56, 55 if you want to know more about that retreat experience. But with that, in this ceremony, I always love starting off sharing my intentions. And again, because this was so close to the previous ceremony, I actually felt like the work was going to be very similar for me. I felt like it was almost a continuation of the previous ceremony. So the intentions that I set were to continue to open my heart to receive love, to continue to open to receive financial abundance, and also to let go of what was no longer serving me. So truly I can step into my power and be of greatest and highest service to the world and for the greater good of all. Also, I really, in stepping into this ceremony, I had lots of prayers that I carried into this ceremony, which came out of the prayer workshop that I had done in my previous ceremony. And that was back in my retreat 2 months prior. So, if you want to know more about that prayer workshop, which was super powerful for me, I shared all of that medicine with you in episode 58, Empowering Your Prayers. So now for this episode, with all of that behind us, I really want to focus on the actual ceremony retreat experience, which transpired throughout the 2 nights of ceremony with this medicine, and really, what happened in the days between that as well. And it really gave me just so much knowledge and so much medicine to integrate in the following weeks and months to come, which, of course, as I mentioned, I'll share in the next episode about integration. So let's drop into Friday night of this medicine retreat, which happened at the beginning of December in 2022. And as I was awaiting ceremony to begin, I did a little bit of journaling. I always try to keep up with journaling during my retreat experiences. And as I was reviewing my journal prior to recording this episode, I was recalling how I was really feeling the most peaceful and the most powerful and the most grateful I had ever been as I was stepping into ceremony. It was probably and possibly from all the oxytocin that was like flooded in my body from falling in love in this new relationship. But I really didn't have the anxiety that I normally had. And I was feeling really grateful for that and just really honored to be able to work with this medicine, and to be able to work with it so closely, from my last experience. So as I sat there journaling, prior to beginning our first night of ceremony, I had these deep realizations that I had been given everything that I had been asking for. The prayer work that I, had been implementing in my life was all coming to fruition. I had during my previous integration and after the last ceremony experience, I had written out a list of 100 things I wanted in a partner. And I received this new relationship that checked off nearly every single one of those 100 things in my partner with David and my partnership. And knowing, even that I had said yes to this ceremony, there was just this big reason and knowing that it was a ceremony, to connect more with David and to do a medicine sit with my partner, which was a big part of what I had been asking for in my prayers. So again, going into this first night, deep in gratitude, deep in peace, deep in my power, and deep in the realizations that I really had been having my prayers become answered, which was a beautiful energy to step into ceremony. And I was really feeling the strength of this love in this divine partnership, this sacred partnership that I had stepped into. And David's love and our love was really just permeating through my being and making me feel so strong and so ready for this ceremony. Again, maybe it was just the flood of oxytocin moving through my body, but ultimately it was a great way to kick off the ceremony. So as we began the first night of ceremony, as I've shared in previous podcasts, in these ceremonies, we go through 3 rounds of medicine. And each time you get to choose on a scale of 1 to 10 how much you want to drink, 1 being just a little tiny sample and 10 being a full cup of medicine. And so on this night, I drank a 5, and a 3.5, which is about a half cup of medicine, a half cup of medicine, and a third cup of medicine throughout the night. And I will say, to start off, this felt like a very strong batch of medicine. And I was flying in the medicine and really feeling the medicine pretty strongly, almost immediately. And it came on with a lot of visuals. And to be honest, while beautiful, the visuals from the DMT in ayahuasca can be a bit overwhelming, and can almost be a bit distracting. So I was seeing all sorts of wild visuals right out of the gate in ceremony. Things like I was seeing rainbows that had they were shooting stars out of the rainbows, and there was lots of sparkles. And I remember seeing jaguar faces like blossoming out of these bushes and these flowers. And I saw this huge black anaconda that was made out of all of this sacred geometry, and it moved through me and around me. And all of these visuals, and especially the experience with the anaconda, it just gave me this feeling of being in union with God, with love, with the infinite, with source, with creation. And again, while gorgeous, all of it starting off felt a little bit too intense. And so one of the things that I always remember is you can speak to the medicine. You can ask the medicine for what you need while you are in ceremony. So I asked grandmother ayahuasca to slow down a little bit, to kind of help me let go of some of the visual, experiences I was having. And it did end up helping. I got through the visuals pretty quickly, but it was a lot. It was a very intense start to this journey. with the visuals, I also had something really unique happen in this ceremony where I had so much auditory stimulation coming in. It was almost like overstimulation of my auditory senses. And I felt like I was experiencing people like talking all around me, even though they weren't. Like I was actually kind of in a corner of the ceremony room, and I kept feeling like there was someone behind me talking, even though again there was no one behind me. Um, and so I was like having difficulty pinpointing where sound was coming from. And it really reminded me of listening to 8D audio, with headphones on, which if you've never done that, I highly recommend you jump on YouTube and look up some 8D audio tracks and listen with headphones on. But it really sounds like things are just moving all around you, and almost like a speaker is just like spiraling around your head, and sound is coming from all different directions at all different times. So that was unusual. That was a new experience for me. But again, I did ask grandmother to slow things down a little bit and to ease up on some of this overstimulation with the visuals and the auditory. And when I finally could feel a little bit more into my physical body, a little bit more into my emotional body, as the medicine kind of calmed down and I could start to work with it a little bit more, I noticed I was doing a lot of physical purging. So the night was really full of purges on my first night. And once again, it came for me in the form of yawning, lots of breathing, lots of tears, and lots of shaking of my physical body, especially in this first night after first and second cup. Still to this day, there has been no purging out of my mouth or out of my ass. Thank goodness. But this was one of the first nights where I had heavier purging happening, again, through the yawns, the tears, the shaking, that I had in a while. So, as I'm starting to feel more into my physical body, I'm also starting to feel more into my emotional body, and was really just feeling, so deeply in love. So deeply in love with my new partner, David. And anytime, he's a guardian in these ceremonies. And anytime I saw him walking around, cleaning up purge buckets, I would just light up when he would walk into the room or walk out. I was sitting by the door, so he was like walking in front of me, and I was just like really feeling his love. And as I was feeling into that love, I had some really funny visions of shopping carts, and like parking lots where you like put the shopping carts into. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, why am I seeing shopping carts and like parking lots? And I realized that this is where I actually like met David, because in our previous couple months of like reconnecting and starting to talk more and date, he would always call me as I was grocery shopping. Like I was about to go grocery shopping or I had just gotten groceries. And so it was always like on these weekends when I was grocery shopping. And so I realized, like, in feeling his love, those visuals were reminding me of where we connected, where I would sit out in these parking lots in my car, like chatting with him on the phone. So that was pretty silly, and also really beautiful. But it was during this time I went outside to just get in some grounding, get kind of into Mother Earth. And I was like really feeling into my love for David, and I was like earthing in the ground and just feeling Mother Earth. And I was smoking a mapacho, sacred tobacco that David had rolled for me. And I was just like holding him in my heart and just feeling his love and feeling the gratitude, to have him in my life and to have this partnership. And I remember I looked up, and of course, this huge shooting star streaks across the sky. And that was all I needed. Like, it was just like that confirmation of yes, right? Have this love, enjoy this love, be grateful for this love. So after that beautiful omen in the medicine, I went back inside. And as I get settled back inside this first night, I had a lot more visuals come on, and I was seeing these like ribbons of prosperity, coming out of my purse. that were designed in like these sacred geometry patterns, and these ribbons were like turning into money and turning into cash, and I just really felt into feeling financially prosperous and really like financial freedom. And it was just a gorgeous energy to tap into, while I was in the medicine. And from there, I started really feeling connected into my grandparents, both my maternal and paternal grandparents. And then I started feeling into my mom and my dad, and the ribbons, like as they kind of shifted and I was like feeling into my parents, I saw these ribbons like connecting me to my ancestors, connecting me to my family lineage. And I started seeing how our ancestral healing was unfolding. And I just saw these through lines through my ancestors. And I was really feeling into my paternal grandmother, my grandma June. And I was also feeling really into my mom. And I just felt both of them there with me so strongly during this time. And I had this deep knowing that I am doing this work for all of our healing, and all of our transformation. And again, this deep knowing that I really was working on generational trauma, and healing our generational wounds and our ancestral wounds, and that the work I was sitting there doing was not only healing, past wounds, right, with my ancestors, it's also healing forwards and future generations. And as all of this was happening, I started to then transition into feeling this knowing that there could actually be a child with David and in this relationship. And I just felt this knowing that that was coming and that this was highly possible. And I'll be honest, it scared me a little bit. I had some fear show up with that because I honestly, at this age in my life and up to this point in my life, I'm currently 37 at the time of this ceremony, at the time of the recording of this podcast, I've really never thought about having a child. It's never been a huge calling in my life. And so to have it show up and have it show up very strongly as a possibility and as an energy that was like coming into my being, it was really beautiful. But I did have to work on surrendering fully to it. And as I like surrendered and like allowed myself to feel this child come in and to feel, the possibility of that, I saw myself really surrendering fully to his love, and to really trusting in his love and to receiving his love. And that led me to feeling, just this deep readiness for this sacred partnership. And I also really saw and just felt so deeply how much work I've done personally to get to this point, to step into a sacred partnership and be in divine union. And I also saw how much work he had done, to make all of this even possible, which was a really beautiful reflection in this medicine. So I'm like just deep in love, right? And again, I know the oxytocin was like moving through me as the ayahuasca medicine was also moving through me. But, during the ceremony, I was really just feeling so much love for David, and he plays music in ceremony. And so anytime his music would come on, and he'd start singing and playing his guitar, I just really would feel so deeply in the love that I have for him. And I would send him lots of love while he was singing, and felt so much gratitude and appreciation for his medicine and for him sharing it with us. There was another woman in ceremony, Diana, who also is a gorgeous singer and very talented guitar player. And as she was sharing, her songs as well, they just all felt so healing and so grounding. And I felt like both David and Diana's music during ceremony was really keeping me super present in the experience. And I was just so grateful to feel all the love, to just feel all the medicine in myself, in my body, and also moving around the room. Now, all of that I just shared was really like first and second cup experience. And I really started to recognize that things were moving super slow for me. I wrote in my journal, it felt like 11 lifetimes had passed when they announced that third cup was now open. to go up and get more medicine. And I was like, oh my God. Like, it was really crazy in this night how I felt like I was experiencing so many lifetimes in just a short amount of true linear time. So I did go up and get more medicine. And third cup, I went and took it and went back to my seat. And at this point, I got really cold. So that's another thing that tends to happen, in the medicine is your temperature can shift pretty easily. And I was really cold, and David had given me a blankie for a ceremony. And I remember as I wrapped, his blankie around me, I felt like he was being wrapped around me. And I felt him sitting behind me and his arms around me. And it was a very comforting feeling. Even though I was cold, it felt good to just be wrapped around that much love. So as I'm sitting there, wrapped up, trying to get myself warm, I started asking grandmother to guide me. And I was asking, how can I be of service? Like, what is my greatest level of service to the world? And how can I operate to really, truly be, of great service to this world, and for the highest and greatest good? And I got a lot of deep confirmation that I was to be in these medicine circles, and I was, maybe to act in a capacity of a guardian, maybe act, in a healing capacity during these ceremonies, and maybe serve some hape, during these ceremonies. But I just felt a big calling to support, the people, and especially the women that are coming into these groups. And so there just came to be an intense calling that this medicine was asking me to step up to, needing me to support it, and to support the medicine in others' journeys, with it, and to kind of lead and guide the way of how people can work with this medicine. So that was really beautiful. And I feel like it's been a big through line in all of my work in these plant medicine journeys, in being called to work more with the medicine and to help others in working with the medicine. So after that beautiful unfolding, I just started getting into this energy that magic is real. And I started really feeling into kind of what I had been feeling into prior to ceremony beginning, that everything that I have been asking for and everything that I have been praying for is now coming to me. Like, prayers are answered, and miracles and magic is real, and so I got this really this message to just keep praying, to keep showing up and to keep asking for what I want out of life. And that shifted me to just really be so grateful, to this experience and to the magic, and truly have the ability to pray and to ceremony with others and to do this work. Because when you are all together in these medicine ceremonies and you're all praying together, there really is so much magic that unfolds. So there was a time in ceremony where one of the curanderos started playing the flute. And I'm not sure what it is with the energy of the flute, but for some reason, my dear brother Parker always comes in when the flute is being played. And so when the flute song was going on, I just really felt Parker's presence there with me. And it was so beautiful. And it definitely, reminded me of just how much love and gratitude I have for him and his presence, in my life, although it was a short amount of time. And I really started feeling into the deep appreciation and gratitude that I had for being able earlier that year to sit in the week-long Wachuma retreat with him. And how Parker really helped me plant the seeds in my being, in my spirit, in my heart, to really open my heart up to receive. It was one of the greatest lessons I'll probably get from anyone in my whole life. And for Parker to hold that space and to take me through that ceremony, I was feeling that very deeply on this first night. During this time, I also went through this interesting swirl. I really wanted to be served some hape in ceremony, and I specifically wanted to be served from David. And I went through this little swirl of like being afraid to ask. It was like, no, don't bother him. No, like you don't need it right now. And it was almost like I saw myself suppressing my desires of what I wanted and not speaking up, for what I wanted and not using my voice to, go after what I desire and what I deserve. And so finally I went over to David and spoke up and asked if he would serve me some hape. And of course he did. And I was just so grateful, to get kind of like an in the moment lesson, right? Of keeping my heart open to really feeling and knowing what I'm worthy of, to know what I deserve and to ask for what I want to receive and what I desire. So it was a really beautiful, again, kind of like in the moment, like I watched my patterns and my brain kind of going like, no, you don't need that. No, you're going to be a bother, to like in the moment transition to no, this is what I want and this is what I deserve. And so I'm going to go get it. So it was a really beautiful part of this ceremony. So ultimately, I felt like this first night was just really a night of celebration. I was dancing in my seat a lot after third cup. I was really grateful at the end of the night. We always do, we dance to a few songs. We get up, we move the medicine around, and I felt like there was a lot of celebration and a lot of beautiful celebratory energy throughout this night. So as ceremony ended, what a beautiful way to end ceremony with your beautiful, wonderful, magical medicine man there with you. David came over after ceremony ended to my mat, and we hugged and we like snuggled, and we served each other hape. And I'll be honest, I was like so eager to serve him some hape that night after ceremony, just in like a small repayment to all of the work that he does for everyone else, throughout the night. He's of service to everyone throughout the night through his music, through taking care of others. And I was just feeling so inspired by him and so tapped into his heart and his strength and his dedication to service, of this medicine. And after we kind of shared that experience, we went out under the stars and really just loved on each other and expressed, with each other our love and our dreams, and just deep gratitude for our connection. And I just kept feeling into this energy of like surrender, and just surrender into this love and allow myself, to fall more in love with him. And I remember that night he said to me, I will never hurt you. And the deep amount of trust that I felt in that statement, I feel like that allowed me, to really just feel so safe and so blessed. And right in that moment, I felt like I was able to fall in love with him so much more deeply, to feel that level again of just trust and safety be wrapped around me and just engulfing my heart. And again, like as we were out there, I just felt so much gratitude to be able to do this work with my sacred partner. Again, it was everything that I had been asking for. And I just felt so grateful for like all the little psychic connection points that he and I share. And, we get kind of weird and we laugh a lot. And there's just so much beauty and love and magnificence. And so it was really special. To have a first medicine sit and ceremony experience, with my love. And just to be able to go back, into the bedroom and just like lay down together and snuggle, felt so good. So that was the end of first night. It was a gorgeous night. And the next day, as we do in ceremony, we wake up, we get some breakfast, nourish ourselves, and we move into sharing circle. It's usually in these sharing circles, as I'm listening to others, I'm kind of like journaling out my experience and capturing things that come in that I remember, so I can record these amazing episodes for all of you. But I remembered after sharing circle, usually I'm like really into, connecting with other people and like talking through my experiences. And I remembered that day, all I wanted to do was like be outside. I wanted to be in the sunshine. I wanted to be earthing. And it just felt so good to just be out in the sun. And so I missed out on the workshop that day because I just wanted to sit outside in the sun. And it really felt so good to just kind of rest all day and soak up the beautiful Pachamama energy out in the desert. So I'm going to take us right into second night of ceremony. I will say, that night, the previous night, I had maybe gotten like 1 to 2 hours of sleep. And usually I sleep a couple more hours than that. So I was so tired going into second night. It was probably a combination, maybe too, of like all the sunshine I got that day and being outdoors, also the medicine that was still moving through me from the previous night. And again, also the lack of sleep. But it was interesting. The second night of ceremony, across the 3 cups, I started with a 3, so about a third cup. And then I did 2 half cups to finish the night. And so I go in really tired. And again, as the medicine song started after first cup, the medicine started off pretty mild for me. And the beginning Icaros, the medicine songs, actually felt like lullabies. They were so beautiful. And I was so peaceful. Like there wasn't anything wrong. I was just feeling really peaceful and really tired. And I actually was kind of grateful to doze off for a little bit. So that's super rare. I don't know if I've ever actually done that up until that point. And some people, some people's perspective is that you're wasting the medicine, if you fall asleep. But I feel we do so much work in our dream states, and that change in brainwave activity. I feel like, the medicine always gives you exactly what you need. So if you fall asleep or not, what does it matter? You're still doing work. The medicine is still moving through you. And so, yeah, I kind of fell asleep and dozed off, and it was really peaceful. But as first round was ending, I kind of like was waking back up and coming back into my body after my little medicine nap. And as we were getting ready for second cup, I knew I needed to wake up a little bit and get some more energy flowing. So that's when I went over to David and asked him to serve me some hape. And I just told him, I was like, I'm tired and I just need to be perked up. So he gave me a really great dose of that medicine to kind of just help wake me up and shake things up and get some medicine moving. So when I went up for second cup, I asked for a 5, which again is a half cup. And I felt like it just felt really big. I don't know. Maybe the curandero gave me a little bit more. Maybe it was just my perception at the time being in the medicine, but it was actually the first time I have ever experienced being a bit nauseated by the medicine. Like in smelling it and drinking it, it actually felt a bit hard to get down, which normally I really love the taste of ayahuasca. So that was unusual. And I remember after I took the medicine, I went back to my mat, to my spot, and I kind of wrapped up. I was a little chilly, and I wrapped up in the blanket, and I kind of wrapped up and like laid back. Like you don't lay all the way down. You're kind of like sitting up, but like laying back a little bit. And I had this really intense experience right out of the gate after second cup. And I actually saw myself as like a mummy. I mean, I was kind of like wrapped up like a mummy, but I like was feeling like a mummy, and I started to actually see myself as a corpse in a coffin. Like I saw myself as dead, and I was actually in this coffin being lowered into the ground and returning to the earth. And it was fascinating because I wasn't afraid. And it really wasn't like a dark experience. Like it didn't come with any fear. It actually felt quite peaceful. But I saw like my body really being returned to the earth. And again, there wasn't a darkness to it. There wasn't any fear around it, but it more came in as like a knowing and a download of how short life is and how, I will be returned to this earth before I even know it. And with that and kind of seeing this death process and just getting this knowing of how short our lives are, it was followed by like, it is time. Like there is no time to waste. It is time right now to embody all that I am, to go after what I deserve, and go after what I desire, like fully, like game on right now. Like there is no time to waste. There is no time to wait. And it's time right now. It's time right now to live. It's time right now to thrive. And so that's a big piece of medicine I feel like I've received for all of you, and I want to share with all of you. Time, our lives are short. They are very short. And if you've been dragging your feet on something, the time is now. Like the world needs you to step up. The world needs you to embody all that you are and deliver whatever it is your medicine is to the world, because the world needs it. So I'm getting goosebumps just saying that. Big, powerful download from that ceremony. So with that, transition to another little thing, because there's so much that happens in these ceremonies, but in that, I know a big part of my work and stepping into this new relationship, I was feeling into a lot of my exes, and a lot of my previous relationships. And I recognize there are still some energetic cords that need to be cut. And especially with my ex-husband. And I really got the download that I needed to clear out any old relationship energies, and cut all of these cords fully, that I still had these connections to these exes and past relationships. If I really wanted to step fully into this sacred partnership with David, like my energy just needed to be cleaned up. And I'll tell you more about how that unfolded in next episode with integration. But it was a big download that I received that night. So around that time, one of the curanderos, he came around, clearing us with sage and Palo Santo, and he had feathers. And I was so grateful to first of all, I love sage and Palo Santo. When you get it in ceremony, you just love it so much more. So I was grateful when it came time. He was in front of my mat and he's blessing me and clearing me. And because he had these feathers and he was kind of like gently whooshing them over my face and my shoulders. And I felt the spirit of a snowy owl come in. And this snowy owl came and perched on my right shoulder. And it was just a really beautiful kind of feeling to have the spirit there with me. And I felt so safe and so protected by it. And it was just a very peaceful spirit that even after the curandero walked away, this little snowy owl spirit just kind of stayed with me there for a bit. I'd actually forgotten about that until I was recording, preparing to record this episode. So kind of want to go in and look at what the spirit and energy of the snowy owl is, to see all of what that means. So maybe I'll do that for our integration episode. One funny thing I want to share with you that was pretty random, that came in, but I recalled this, and had written about it in my journal. So as I'm in ceremony the second night, I went on this little journey, across all the oceans. I was journeying over all the oceans, and in this journey, and I started to think about teleporting and how cool it would be to teleport. I've always wanted to be able to teleport. If I had one superpower, teleportation would be it. So I'm in ceremony thinking about teleporting, and all of a sudden I get this idea that I want to teleport down to Antarctica. And I thought to myself, how awesome would it be to teleport down to Antarctica, scoop up 20 penguins, and bring them back into the ceremony room, and to release them into the ceremony room while everyone was in the medicine. And I went through this whole ridiculous little plan in my head to do this. And I was asking myself, would anyone even notice if there were penguins walking around in here? And if they would notice, what would they think about the penguins? And again, sometimes the medicine is just funny. Sometimes it's just a bit of a jokester. And I was laughing so much. I was literally just sitting there chuckling to myself at this random visual and idea that had popped into my head. And, again, sometimes the medicine, it just has this sense of humor. It comes in to lighten things up. And really laughter, right, is its own beautiful medicine. So it's great that this medicine, grandmother ayahuasca, fuels some laughter for us sometimes. So after some of that ridiculousness, I spent some time in ceremony the second night doing some mirror work. And I actually had this whole visual and vision experience that I was staring at myself in the mirror, and I was like sitting in front of this big, like full bodied mirror. And I had this vision that I was like writing, over my face, over my reflection. And I was writing out, I am beautiful. I am worthy. I am deserving. I am enough. And I really felt like I was rewriting and rewiring all of my inner beliefs about myself. And also at the same time, unsubscribing to all of the, lack of self-worth and that I am not enough, all of the shit that no longer served me. So it was like a really beautiful, like download that I felt really deeply into my cells. I felt really deeply integrated into this mirror work that I was doing in ceremony. I also really fell into my mom and all of the ancestral healing work that we've done together. I was really feeling into how we have been breaking, these addiction cycles and trauma patterns in our family. And I felt so many of our wounds have been healed and so much is still healing, in our ancestral wounds and this ancestral trauma. And as I was feeling into that, this really unfolded into me wanting a new name. I really feel that names carry so much energy with them. And I was really feeling like I'm ready for my new name. At this moment, and at this ceremony, I was still carrying the name of my ex-husband. And so, of course, with David now being in my life, I just had this whole unfolding of taking his name and stepping into this new energy with my new name, and how it's really time to just surrender all the fears and accept, what I deserve and what I desire fully and take on this new energy that is now mine, to experience and mine to be. So as I was feeling into this new name and this new energy, in myself really unfolding, I really started to see David as my future husband. And I felt just this deep knowing that like he is my family. Like this is my new family. This is our family, and we're creating a family. And as I was feeling that, I saw our child come in. And we now lovingly refer to this child as Spirit Baby. And I saw Spirit Baby come in. He appeared as a boy, a little baby boy. And he looked so much like both of us. Like it was like beautiful and eerie and just like, it was just so moving, like his presence and seeing him and connecting with Spirit Baby. It really did bring tears to my eyes. Although interestingly enough, in ceremony, the baby, his little spirit would not let me see his eyes. And I really do believe our eyes are like our windows to our soul. And so I don't know if Spirit Baby, like maybe he didn't trust me fully yet. Maybe he didn't trust my relationship yet with David to really show me his eyes, to show me his soul. But regardless, it was incredibly beautiful, and it just really brought in even further clarity in knowing that David is my sacred partner and he is real and our relationship is real and our love is real and that our future together is real and it is all completely possible. So yeah, big, long, beautiful night. When it comes to David, I just have so much love for him. And this ceremony was a huge confirmation that he is my partner and how much he deeply inspires me and how humbled I am by him and these other medicine carriers, these other curanderos, these other guardians, and just how much they are of service to us and to the world. And at the end of the night, I got to serve David during ceremony some hape. And that felt really special to be able to do, to just give back to him, for all that he does for all of us in these ceremonies. And after ceremony, I also got to serve him some sananga, which is a plant medicine that is in the form of eye drops. And I just really, it was the first time I've ever served anyone sananga. And he taught me how to do it. And I just felt so grateful to even be learning from him, and to see how good of a teacher he is for me and how deeply inspired I am by him and how this partnership offers so much benefits to both of us. and, how much he supports me and stepping into my, power as a medicine woman and how much I can support him. It's just also gorgeous. And this ceremony was beautiful, and there was so much that transpired and happened. And ultimately, though, that was probably the biggest theme, was just the confirmation of my readiness for this partnership, for my readiness to really fully step into my power, as a medicine woman, and to just, keep going forward, right, on this journey of transformation. So I'm going to end there, my friends, because not only has this been a long episode, and thank you for sticking with me, I want to save some more of the medicine for part 2 of this series, which will be, about integration. And I'll really be diving in next episode to sharing my experience that happened in the following hours, days, weeks, and all of the beauty that unfolds and unfolded in integration. I really believe our true work does, well, the work never ends. But there's so much work that happens in integration, of all these things I just shared, taking these downloads, taking these messages, taking these knowings and turning them into wisdom. Right. So I'll share with you some of the wisdom that came in the next episode, which literally started like driving. Actually, it started the next morning. So like hours after ceremony. So I'll be so eager to share that all with you guys in the next episode. But okay, my dear tribe, let's remember this is all about making the world a more beautiful place. And that begins with you. Because as you better yourself and you move through your own healing, you move through your own transformation journey, you are beautifying our world. I hope you found this episode helpful, maybe even a bit entertaining. And I do appreciate you always being on your transformational journey with me. As always, if you need support on your journey, as you are healing from trauma, or as you are preparing for, or you are integrating a plant medicine journey, make sure you grab your free clarity call with me below, because I would be honored to guide you to your trauma healing and your personal transformation. But that is all for today, my dear tribe. Until next time, mwah, much love to you all. Hey tribe, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button below and then click subscribe so you catch future episodes. And remember, I've got lots of free resources for you to learn about the powers of intentional plant medicine use in order to support your trauma healing and personal transformation journey. So make sure you check them out in the description below and help in making this a more beautiful world for us all. Thanks again for tuning in, tribe. And until next time, much love to you all.